Sometimes it feels like he'll play forever, but we may well be nearing the twilight of LeBron James' career. There's little need to worry about a dearth of talent when he leaves. However, as the NBA is loaded with players who have exhibited superstar potential in the first couple of years on their careers, the rising generation is so intriguing that you can lower the maximum age for a list like this all the way to 21 and still come up with 10 names with relative ease. The top 10 at 21 and under features point guards putting up unprecedented numbers for their age, a physical marvel whose feel for the game is way ahead of schedule, a 3-and-D center who evokes memories of Kevin Garnett, and more. But first, a couple of quick words about how I arrived at these 10. For one, the age qualification was based simply on whatever the player is at the time of publishing. Second, this video is an endeavor to list the players who are the best right now. One could reasonably argue that RJ Barrett has a higher ceiling than some of the players you'll see detailed here. But he was statistically dreadful in 2019 and 20, he could be very well featured among the top 10 players aged 23 and under in a couple of years. And finally, contrary to the typical practice for rankings, advanced numbers like box plus and minus were not heavily relied upon. They certainly have their place in evaluating youngsters, but they deserve leeway. The learning curve in the NBA is steep, so while analytics were certainly consulted here, they aren't the end-all be-all. Number 10, Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish's season-long numbers aren't likely to blow many away, but that's an indicator of the aforementioned learning curve. Once he settled into his role with the Atlanta Hawks, Reddish found a nice rhythm. Since the calendar turned to 2020, he has averaged 13.3 points, 1.9 threes, and 1.1 steals, while shooting 44.5% from the field and 39.7% from three. In the same stretch, Atlanta's net rating is 6.2 points better with the budding three and D-wing on the floor. Number 9, Wendell Carter Jr. His NBA production hasn't been quite as wide-ranging as his college numbers suggested it might, but Wendell Carter Jr. has still shown the potential to be an effective modern five. There's plenty of time for the playmaking and outside shooting to come along. In the meantime, he may actually be a bit ahead of schedule in terms of traditional big man skills. For his career, Carter is averaging 1.4 blocks per 75 possessions, and this season alone he's shooting 69.4% on shots within 3 feet of the rim and 17 of 33 on mid-rangers in the 10 to 16 foot range. Number 8, Kevin Huerter. His career 38.3 point percentage may be the most exciting number on the stat sheet, but Kevin Huerter is more than just a shooter. He's averaging 4.2 assists per 75 possessions this season, and he's second among Hawks in possessions used as a pick-and-roll ball handler. He may never be a lockdown defender, but he's big enough to cause some problems. His emerging point forward game should keep him a net positive. Number 7, PJ Washington. There aren't a lot of bright spots on a Charlotte Hornets roster that seems bound for mediocrity over the next several years. In fact, PJ Washington might be it. This season, he's averaging 12.2 points, 5.4 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 1.5 threes, 0.9 steals, 0.8 blocks, and 30.3 minutes per game. And they aren't just empty calorie numbers for a bad team. Charlotte's net rating is 2.8 points better when Washington's on the floor. Number 6, Collin Sexton. He has a long way to go as a playmaker for others. A lead guard should average more than 3.0 assists per game. But Collin Sexton's shooting and competitiveness are for real. For his career, he is shooting 39.2% from 3, and his scoring average is up to 20.8 this season. The Cleveland Cavaliers need to find more intriguing talent to develop alongside him, but Sexton appears to be a sturdy building block. Number 5, Jaron Jackson Jr. Jaron Jackson Jr.'s individual production seems to have plateaued a bit this season. If there are margins for error in basketball statistics, his changes from 2018 to 2019 to 2019 and 2020 in box plus/minus, true shooting percentage, usage percentage, and a handful of other members will likely fall with them. It's too early to think that's some kind of warning sign though. Jackson is still just 20 years old, and the diversity of his on-court contribution suggests he has the potential to be a thoroughly modern five. Prior to this season, Kevin Durant was the only player in league history to average at least as many threes and blocks per game as Jackson in 2019 and 20. For years, we thought mostly of wings when it came to the 3-and-D distinction. JJJ is leading the charge for big men to join that group. If he can reduce his foul rate and increase his production on the glass, Jackson will go a long way toward establishing himself as one of the game's top big men. Number 4, Ja Morant. NBA basketball can be a tough thing to figure out. For a point guard, it's like a jigsaw puzzle that's constantly in motion. It's no wonder that it takes years for most ones to get a grasp on their role and strengths within the league. Ja Morant, however, is way ahead of schedule. He's on track to become just the 10th guard in the NBA history to put a 25 plus user percentage and an above average box plus or minus as a rookie. If you throw in a 30 plus assist percentage, that list shrinks down to these four: Steve Francis, Kyrie Irving, Allen Iverson, and Morant. Morant plays with the maturity possessed by few 20-year-olds across history. He seems to embody the old John Wooden axiom, be quick but don't hurry. He's willing to give the ball up to get it back, and he averages nearly as many potential assists as field goal attempts. The unselfish, steady approach is far from an indication that Morant lacks competitive fire, though. When games get tight, he's not afraid to take over. Among players who appeared in at least 15 games that enter clutch time, Morant's 40.4 usage percentage in the clutch ranks 6th in the NBA. His 59.8 true shooting percentage in the clutch tops everyone ahead of him in usage. This is a superstar in the making, and as the rest of the talent in Memphis develops alongside him, the Grizzlies are going to be a problem before long. Number 3, Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson likely didn't play enough to garner serious consideration for Rookie of the Year, but he showed more than enough to confirm his superstar potential. He's averaging 27.5 points and 7.9 rebounds per 75 possessions while posting a 62.4 true shooting percentage. The explosive vertical athleticism and lightning-fast second jump that led to much of that production has been covered in most corners of the sports media internet. What's a little less celebrated, though, perhaps every bit as important, is his feel for the game. Zion has a veteran's understanding of spacing, angles, the positioning of defenders, and knowing when to cut. He rarely makes dives to the rim that clock things up for his teammates. When he goes, it's because there's an opportunity to score or grab an offensive rebound, and his success rate on those fronts is high. The attention that his team commands has a massively positive impact on the team too. When he's on the floor, the New Orleans Pelicans are plus 10.2 points per 100 possessions, compared to minus 2.0 when he's off. Number 2, Trey Young. Trey Young is already an offensive superstar. He's averaging 29.6 points, 9.3 assists, and 3.4 threes per game. His 6.3 offensive box plus or minus is tied for the 6th highest ever for a player in an age 21 or younger season, and the Atlanta Hawks offense goes from just above average to abysmal when he leaves the floor. The criticisms of his defense are fair, but his deficiencies there come nowhere near outweighing what he brings on the other end of the floor. Young is already at or near the top of the league in terms of his vision. He seems to know exactly where each of his 4 teammates is at all times, and he has a willingness to move the ball that has led to 17.3 potential assists per game. Number 1, Luka Doncic. Even the staunchest pre-draft believers in Luka Doncic have to be a little surprised by his first 2 seasons in the NBA. His production and influence on a playoff-bound team are mind-blowing. Russell Westbrook is the only player in league history who has averaged at least as many points, rebounds, and assists per 75 possessions in a single season as Doncic is now. And Luka's true shooting percentage is 3 points higher than Westbrook's from that MVP season. This brings us to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like on the video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.